Invitation Homes right now manages about 80,000 units across multiple states, I think 13 states. FTC suing Invitation Homes. They got sued for multiple things. The two main things that they got sued for is basically both of them involve unfair and deceptive trade practices. One of them is around disclosure of fees. And so basically, it looks primarily like a resident benefits package. They talked about things like air filter delivery, keyless locks, or smart home technology, like things like that. So they're advertising the rent for $2,000, but then the tenant doesn't realize till after they pay the application fee that, oh, there's all these extra fees that are mandatory. So that was one of their practices. And then the other practice was around security deposits. The FTC found out that Invitation Homes had only been returning, I think it was like 30% of their security deposits in full. And they felt like there's a lot of unfair deceptive trade practice around how they were keeping the security deposits from the tenants. So they settled the lawsuit. They appeared to have settled it probably very quickly and were glad to get out of this situation. And they settled for $48 million. It sounds like a huge number. You do the math and you realize, okay, that's $640 a unit. So not crazy. It's also not nothing, right? Because you start doing the math on that. If you're a property manager only managing 100 units, that's $64,000, right? You're managing 500 units, you're talking $300,000 to $400,000. Right now, the FTC has made it clear that they want to come after quote-unquote corporate landlords. They're starting where the big dollars lie with companies like Invitation Homes. But the writing's on the wall that they're coming after the entire industry. But here, a property manager right now, and even if you're only managing 50 to 100 units, but you're not thinking through these things and having the right strategies, then that's a problem. One of the key strategies or important takeaways seems to be around disclose, right? This is real estate 101. The question is disclosure enough, right? Are the authorities out there going to decide eventually, no, these mandatory fees or whatever fees, that disclosing them isn't enough? For now, it seems like disclosing them probably is enough. I would certainly feel comfortable with that. But beyond disclosure, my advice is always, this is why it's so important to have diversified income streams. Because at any given time, with our industry under threat like it is, you never know when one of your income streams might dry up or get hammered by the market. And so if you're overly reliant on making money in just one particular way, and your company won't survive without you making money in that way, that's a problem. So you need to diversify the way in which your company is making its revenue.
Hey, Matt, talk to me about rising labor costs and compliance issues and how that's affecting the property management industry.
Yeah, first I want to talk about the profitability of a property management company. And profit is super simple to understand, right? It's income minus expenses. And right now, property management companies are feeling the squeeze on both sides, right? On that income side, there's more and more regulation and threat of regulation and threat of lawsuits that some of our income channels may be going away, right? For example, the news about Invitation Homes, they settled for a lawsuit for $48 million, which breaks down about $640 a unit, which is a lot. So we're feeling it on the income and the revenue side. And then on the expense side, we have increased expenses on some of our regular resources, like our tech stack. A lot of our tech stacks charge per unit, or their pricing is going up, or we want to add more and more tech as we have more expenses. But the biggest expense any property management company, any business has, is always labor, which is why this question was coming up today about your labor efficiency and how to reduce your labor costs. The most interesting part about this for me is when NARPO did the financial benchmarking study a couple of years ago, one of the things that was discovered is that of the most profitable companies in property management, 2/3 of their labor force were global staff. And it's obvious to see why, right? You can get higher level talent for lower prices because those are good wages in those countries where those folks live. So you can still pay middle to upper middle class wages when you lean into those remote team members, but then you could have more staff and higher level staff. We all are feeling that now when you try to hire locally. It's hard to find people right now to hire locally, and it's hard to find people that are of the talent level you need for the prices that you can afford to pay. So yeah, that's why it's super important. If you're not leaning into global staff, you are going to get left behind. We have always been big process geeks at our company, at our property management companies, and now at BetterWho. One of the things that came to mind as I think about process development is the importance of a good software stack. And there are great options that are out there right now. Of course, a lot of people, at least in NARPO and a lot of the single family community, are aware of Lead Simple. We are big fans of Lead Simple here at BetterWho. A lot of our clients are using Lead Simple. But there are other good options. Some of the other options that I don't always recommend, but they can be good options, are things like Lende, things like ClickUp, even Notion could be helpful. But one of the other big players that's out there right now is Aptly. And they seem to be coming on strong. They have some good innovations with Redvine right now. So a lot of folks on Redvine are debating between Lead Symbol and Aptly. And there's some key differences. We've had some clients that have been on both, and what they would say is both are excellent. And it's really just a matter of which thing you want to prioritize. Again, this can be a really helpful part of having an executive coach. So a lot of our clients, they're trying to evaluate this decision, and this is something we help coach them through, right? What's the right tool for them at this time? Weigh the cost, weigh how much expertise they're going to need to roll something out. Do they need to hire a remote team member to help them roll a certain thing out? So yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into picking the right process solution. Yeah, you can have all the metrics in the world, you have all the KPIs in the world, but even if you know where to measure it and know how to track it, if you're not willing to have hard decisions with your team, if you're willing to continue to accept mediocrity, then there's no point in bothering tracking those metrics, right? So that's going to be the difference maker in success with KPIs, is having those hard conversations and making that progress forward that you need to make.
Matt, how do you hold your team accountable to the KPIs?
Number one is to have the right rhythm in how you're going to bring them up. Right? Some KPIs need to be brought up daily, some weekly, some monthly, some quarterly. Right? So figuring out what that rhythm needs to look like. And then the other thing is figuring out exactly who and how you're going to look at them, right? So what meetings should they be brought up? When they're brought up, what does the discussion look, right? Do you just simply gloss over it if it looks good? Do you ask questions? If it doesn't look good, what thresholds are you willing to accept? If it doesn't look good on any given week, are you automatically escalating that as an issue? Or do you have a tolerance level? Can it not look good for 2 or 3 weeks before it becomes an issue? Once it becomes an issue, the most important thing is to, what I always say is to not solve the circumstance, but solve the issue, right? The circumstance would be, oh, hey, this metric isn't where it needs to be. Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm going to go out and do this thing this week to get this KPI back on track. Okay, fine. But why are we in this problem in the first place? Just today, I was talking to somebody who has over 100 overdue tasks, right? That's a problem, right? Why do they have 100 overdue tasks? How do we make sure to solve that problem so they never have that problem again in the future? It can't just simply be, oh, great, let's take some things off their plate so they can get caught up. Okay, great, that gets them caught up today. But now what? What's going to happen again next week? Are they going to get behind again? So make sure you're always solving actual issues and not just the circumstances.